Thank you, Tim, and thank you to BSN for having us today. I would now like to ask my fellow panelists to please join us on stage. Yifan, Neil, Harriet, Roland, and Jay. Please join us, please. So we'll have Harriet joining us online, as you can see. So we are towards the end of our session today, and the topic is very interesting in terms of looking at how non-crypto chains operate and what's the value that they bring to the ecosystem. It is a very important topic because we've seen the ecosystem evolve in terms of a lot of use of crypto and then the pushback that comes naturally for that from a variety of different operators. But before we kick off, I would like each of our panelists to quickly introduce themselves. We'll start with Yifan. I'm sure but everybody's been introduced, but for those who may have come in later, Yifan and the online audience here.
Okay, my name is Yifan He, and I'm the CEO and the founder of Ready Technology. We are basically one of the founding members of BSN in China, and also the operators and one of founding members of BSN Foundation, who is in charge of the Spartan network outside China. Thank you.
Roland?
Great. Thank you, Yifan, Tim, for having me. My name is Roland. I'm the managing partner of a venture capital fund called CoCoon Ignite Ventures. We are part of a larger CoCoon group, and we do three main businesses: venture investments, incubation, and philanthropy. Thank you.
Thank you. Harriet?
Hello, everyone. This is Harriet from Bianjie. Binji is a global open source blockchain builder. We are the co-contributor to Cosmos and ArisNet project, and we are currently leading the Cosmos Interchain NFT specification design and development. We are the developer for BSN Permissioned Interchain Service Hub and its first permissioned blockchain Wencang chain. Today, we are so happy in supporting the launch of the Spartan network. Thank you.
Thank you, Harriet. Neil?
Yes, my name is Neil Tan. I'm the CEO for Neptune Digital. Neptune Digital is actually a blockchain company joint venture startup between Kinetic Capital, which is a venture capital fund founded by Jihan Chu and also Tony Gravanas, and also a company called CryptoBlock, which does DLT and blockchain, principally inside of banking, finance, insurance, and also Hong Kong government. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jay?
Hello, I'm Jay Law. I'm the CTO of digiXnode Limited. digiXnode is actually a long-standing agent or a partner of Red Date. We have a portal that can offer access to customers and developers into BSN technologies and offerings. So we are prepared to also upgrade our service to offer access into the public BSN, specifically Spartan network. So we're going to talk about a little bit more in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you all. So we'll kickstart with the big question, that is, can crypto chains exist? Can chains exist without crypto, right? And how are they really decentralized? And we'll start off with Yifan on this question. It's a fundamental question a lot of people will be asking. How is this possible? And we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Whoever asks the question is from a cryptocurrency industry. Okay, so they see from the cryptocurrency perspective. So sometimes, like people who only drink Coca-Cola, they don't drink water. Then they ask, how can we even survive without Coca-Cola? I said, we can drink water. Okay, so it's personally, I still see, when the first time I actually look into the blockchain technology back in 2018, I'm a very latecomer, okay? And, when I really look at, so, basically we see through the cryptocurrency because we consider that as only an application enabled by this powerful technology. Then, so when you say cryptocurrency is only an application built on blockchain, then you can say, okay, there are definitely other applications can be built on blockchain too. So without crypto, there will be something else. Yeah.
Right. So Harriet, just bringing this to you as well, right? So what are your thoughts on this? And are these chains really decentralized? That's another question that a lot of people ask.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I was laughing when I hear like Yifan explain like when people like drinks Coca-Cola and also like the water, the difference. Yeah, basically for Bianjie, we work in both the public chain space as well as consortium chain space. And I think I really quite echo Yifan's comments, maybe because of the fast growth of cryptocurrency public chain space. People often forget that blockchain can perform its core business, which is distributed ledger booking without cryptocurrency. So that's why actually the enterprises have been using consortium chains without cryptocurrencies for many years. However, yeah, because of consortium blockchains are not open as public chains, which makes it very hard to support internet scale use cases. So that is why I'm really happy to see Spartan Network integrates the best practices from both worlds, which is open as well as friendly for compliance. For the for the question like if like for the non-crypto currency chains, are they really decentralized? So we first need to understand a different level of decentralization. Spartan is open public chain. If we are talking about bookkeeping validation nodes, the numbers in Spartan network, of course, today it is not as decentralized as those cryptocurrency-based public chains, which has been launched for years. However, even for the cryptocurrency-based public chains, Ethereum and Cosmos are more decentralized than Solana. However, despite the different level of decentralization, they are all very innovative open networks with distinct values to our industry. I'm very confident for Spartan because it's open governance design. There will be more and more bookkeeping nodes joining the network, and it will become more and more decentralized.
Thank you, Harriet. And I think that clarifies to everybody who may have had a doubt in terms of how can a blockchain system exist without cryptocurrencies, because as Yifan mentioned, everybody's been clouded by the Coca-Cola, and now we're getting the clear water, right, after heating the Coca-Cola out. Roland, you have been with CoCoon Ventures and with, in general, CoCoon, you've been involved with the ecosystem for quite a few years, right? And this is not just with crypto, with the blockchain ecosystem as well. So how have you seen, that ecosystem grow broadly in terms of blockchain and the decentralized ecosystem? And secondly, when you're looking at ecosystems such as the Spartan network and others, what's been the growth in greater China region? And secondly, as an extension of that question is, as an investor, what are the key elements you're looking for such ventures or in such ventures?
Sure, I'll answer the last question first. That's the easy one. It's use cases because that's customers, that's revenues. In any blockchain project, to avoid pyramid schemes of sorts or the kind of bad reputation, you need new money constantly coming into the system. So it's customers first. Doesn't matter what technology is. But I really enjoy that first question about, we've been in this space for a while, and going to a conference like this, it really feels like a bit of a homecoming. I still remember 2017 during, I guess, the end of the first wave, beginning of the second wave in the cryptocurrency world. It was very exciting, and people felt, the second rebound is the time for this technology and these projects to really take hold. Well, as they say, was a third time's a charm. So now that we've gone through, we're going through one winter, maybe the next bounce back, we can finally see mass adoption for this technology. I agree that, blockchain needs, does not have to exist with cryptocurrency, absolutely. But from an investor point of view, we are constantly thinking about what does it take for these inspirational technologies or business ideas to take hold, inspire users, which will naturally inspire investors to put more money behind this. And unfortunately or unfortunately, cryptocurrency was that thing that took hold in our minds to show the potential of this technology and where it makes money. So in terms of what the investors care about, I would generally say, I'll put them into two buckets, short-term, long-term. And I think there are opportunities in both. There's no right or wrong. I realize in these discussions about, is it worth investing into blockchain or crypto projects? Is this space real? I think the context of how far and short are people looking at determines the answer to that. So the short-term opportunity obviously is a speculative opportunity There are a lot of fantastic projects, lots of new inspiration, new ideas, new potential, and people buy into that and trade on the crypto value, on the demand for that type of project, whether it actually happens or not. And I think, on the good side, that continues the momentum, the imagination, the discussion behind the potential of this space that will attract more investor money. But of course, when these projects blow up, people think the whole space is over. But then that gets mitigated by the second second group of investors, ourselves included, where we take a long-term view, very much taking to what was presented this afternoon about the enterprise use cases, the pragmatic stuff behind blockchain, the security behind it, the clarity, and especially the tokenization. When we think about that, we think about the individualism and the empowerment that tokenization brings to a certain industry, whether it's real estate or an individual's effort and work. And I think generally on a macro level, when we're heading into a world now where individualism, your own rights, your own effort, your own identity, your capabilities becomes more and more important, I think that naturally speaks to the adoption of blockchain technologies. So on the long-term investor side, including ourselves, it's still a growing space. A lot of use cases are still being built. So fantastic that BSN Spartan brought so many corporates together to demonstrate their initial use cases, and it'll only grow from here. The final comment I want to say here is also, in terms of where the investors are, let's not forget that some great investors, Andreessen Horowitz, just to call their name out, saw this momentum happening early on already. So in terms of whether are investors getting into this space, well, they've already raised capital for this space 1, 2, 3 years ago. There's plenty of money behind it. So us as investors, obviously we played, we're going to play to this momentum and say, we're not the only ones to be contrarian to invest in this. There's billions of dollars behind these projects. So this is certainly a space that already has momentum. Now it comes down to the final thing, which is looking for use cases, customers who are paying for this technology.
Thanks. I just want to extend this conversation a little bit more, right, from an investor perspective. What you mentioned about, there's been investment for quite some time, but we look at the boom, say 2018, 19 was the ICO boom, right? And more dominantly, it was token sales. That's how projects raise funding legitimately or otherwise, right? So a lot of them was legitimate as well. And now when we're talking about projects which don't have tokens, essentially, or non-crypto tokens, and are looking at venture, how are you seeing that? Is that becoming more common? Are you seeing more ventures or startups looking to raise venture capital versus tokens? Or is that still a token-heavy ecosystem?
Great question. And from my limited view, I just came back from going around the world after being in Hong Kong for 2 years. So I wouldn't say I fully comprehend or see what's everything in the world. But my brief peek into the US and Europe is a hybrid. And hybrid specifically being your traditional venture capitalists that will still take equity in companies that are doing projects, and you still make money on the capital gains on that, versus the ones that'll do token. And it almost feels like you have to establish, as an investor, you have to establish that to establish your identity in the space. So right now it's still a hybrid. People are still venture capital is still quite extreme. Either I'm a purebred, or I'm doing a secured agreement for future tokens. I'm only taking tokenomics, that kind. I think it will need to merge, because I think the economics between these two will not be completely bifurcated. I think they'll come together. But right now, just to be that top dog VC, to get those good projects to get in, just by identity, you do have that very clear distinction between I'm a token-only investor or I'm a traditional investor. We are betting on the equity side so far, simply because it has longer precedent and we understand it more. But that's not to say the token guys will not succeed or don't know what they're doing.
Thanks.
Kai?
Yeah, Yifan, please.
Okay. So I was an investor for 10 years in China as a private equity. So why I say this actually is two types of investors. One type is investing in Coca-Cola factory. Another type of investors, they only invest into the water supply as a city infrastructure. So those two type of investors, sometimes they don't even cross over. Right, so it's like it's not like it's a Coca-Cola factory. Everybody want to invest, but actually the majority of the world don't want to invest into Coca-Cola factory. They only interested to invest into some infrastructure. So it's like, some investors invested into Yahoo, Amazon, the e-commerce website, and they don't want to invest into cloud services because back 10 years ago, nobody believed in that, right? So it's totally two industry and two group.
Yeah, fair enough. That's that two worlds that we're seeing, and it's progressing. And what I see is you are seeing a lot of people realize that tokens were exciting, but when you have thousands of these tokens, you really do not able to leverage on tokenomics anymore. It becomes the venture and the value of the venture itself. So a lot more VCs are switching towards it, and more so the projects also switching to that venture model. And this makes it easier for non-crypto chains also to raise funding. Neil, I'm going to come to you now to talk a little bit about the DDC, right? The DDC has been almost revolutionary in the sense of how it's progressed and how well it's done, especially in mainland China. So could you tell us a little bit more about the DDC and its application and why it's been so successful?
Yeah, so a little bit of background. Open permission Ethereum, essentially that's the chain that we are on the BSN inside of China. Obviously for Ethereum, we've got the 721s, we've got the 1155s for minting NFTs, but there's an overarching layer that has emerged as far as the DDCs are concerned. If you're not familiar with DDCs, it's distributed digital certificates. Essentially, the creation is actually from Yifan, which actually makes a lot of sense because ultimately what we're trying to do is make Web3 accessible to everyone, right? And if you kind of stuck with the model of, okay, well, you've got to go and create your smart contracts and do all those different things on your own, the accessibility would be significantly less. And what this DDC does is actually makes it far simpler for people that basically don't have to need to know how to code at all to deploy NFT inside of their specific applications and so forth, right? So I think this is where the accessibility is. Even if you said today, what percentage of the population outside of China is doing crypto, it's a pretty small number. The whole point of everything from open permission Ethereum, also Spartan Ethereum on the international side, is all about accessibility and how to get more people into Web3. So, we looked at the different sort of steps between somebody going from zero and all the way to purchasing an NFT, let's say, for example, on OpenSea, and that's anywhere between 30 to 40 steps. And that means, going over there, opening up Binance or an exchange account, funding it with HSBC or with another bank. I don't want to say, point out any banks. But, and then it's already very challenging to KYC onto the platform and then also get your fiat onto the platform, purchase USDT, USDC, and then go and get Ethereum and so on and so forth. It's a big challenge all the way to the MetaMask and et cetera. So you're talking about 30 to 40 different steps inside of that. Now, if you look at it inside of the way that we're operating, whether it's inside of China or outside on Spartan Ethereum, it cuts that significantly less down to just at the wallet plates, right? Because you're basically crypto free and you're also fiat focused, right? So that's what the purpose of everything that, inside of what we do today is accessibility of Web3, whether it's inside of China or outside of China. And I think DDCs have done that, especially inside of China. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I cut in?
Sure, please, of course.
Just to be fair, it's today it's Neil and Harriet actually the chain operators. Neil's chain is Spartan 1, powered by non-cryptocurrency Ethereum. Harriet's chain is Spartan 2 chain, powered by non-crypto Cosmos. Also, both of their chains also on DDC network. So I think, when Neil talked about his chain, Harry should have a chance to talk about her chain,
yes.
Just to be fair. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask Harriet that as well. So Harriet would love to hear more about Cosmos's use cases on DDC, and in particular, how are you seeing the success of that and overall of the DDC, please? Thank you.
Actually, thanks, Yifan, but I want to correct one point. It is not Harriet's chain. So it is the public chain, and it is accessible for every user. And so I'm coming back to the question. So I think like the BSN DDC network is like the precursor of the Spartan network. So the radical of the DDC and Spartan lies in its combination of openness from the public chain technology base, as well as compliance support from the consortium chain base. So actually doing this combination is really not easy. Actually, I can talk for hours about the unique technology challenges, but probably not today. So next time we will have a session just on the Spartan and DTC innovation. And just answering the question about the successful use cases. And today, actually for DDC Wenchang chain, it already supports more than 1,200 live applications. And I will just give 2 examples among all of them. So one use case was in collaboration with Circle Square in supporting La Prairie's new product launch in China a few months ago. So this digital campaign combines digital human and AR, the augmented reality technology, to support a better customer engagement. Another case was just started last week. So it is in collaboration with 保利当代艺术, Poly Art, in supporting Taiguli Beijing Shopping Mall event. So in this event, like user can customize their digital avatar in the metaverse in real time, and can interact with shopping mall big screen, and can network with other shoppers. It is really fun. And we are currently collaborating with a public company in generalizing this type of on-chain and off-chain digital screen interaction. So I'm really looking forward in building more innovation use cases with the global Spartan users.
Thank you, Harriet. Jay, you've also been very heavily engaged with this, with the BSN and the Spartan network. Are there any other use cases that you'd like to bring into focus and talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, to start with, I have to thank the Hong Kong Cyberport because a few use cases that BSN has featured today is actually from the Cyberport, and so I can actually share a little bit about these use cases like individually. So the first one is called MediConsent. So MediConsent is a nearly like a unicorn of Hong Kong. So they have in-house, they have around 40 developers. So MediConsent is actually an insurtech application. Now they're thinking to develop a new application that is actually going to enable patients who has like terminal illness to seek for a second opinion. So traditionally, especially people in China, if they go and see a doctor in a hospital, the medical record is actually, in a way, is co-owned by the patient and the hospital. So let's say if they want to seek for a second opinion outside of China or other places, they have to go through a lot of hurdles before they can actually share the original sort of like a CT scan or medical record to the secondary hospital. So they are trying to make use of Spartan to create an NFT that will actually represent a decryption key to decrypt the medical record that is being uploaded by the first hospital to a web server. So I think, and you may ask, like, so what is the key element that this use case has with by using public chain? Because using public chain is actually, you have a full transparency on the consent that is actually given by the patient. So also from the data receiver end, they can be sure that the owner of the data has actually given consent, but not any data that is actually from any sort of like a data handler. So anyone who is actually going to use the data, they can be very comfortable in terms of like, they can actually see the consent is being given by the data owner themselves. And the second startup I want to talk about is Hefa. So they're actually a IP and licensing sort of platform. So basically, in the likes of Bored Ape Yacht Club, you have an animated character. So people might want to make use of that animated character to be put onto their merchandise. So this is actually a platform that all the creators can go and register their IP, and at the same time, people who is seeking for IP to be put onto their merchandise can go onto the same platform and search for these IPs. And at the same time, they also provide one-stop shop in terms of like a consultancy advisory on the legal aspect of the IP. And the third use case is called Future Now. So basically, they're trying to create an application that will timestamp children's achievement. So basically, if a child has, let's say, get the championship of a football game, they will actually receive an NFT along with their medal and trophy. So this is something also a very interesting use case. Yeah.
So what do you think is attracting them to the Spartan network and BSN for these use cases?
Well, of course, it's the non-crypto aspect and also the public chain, because all these use cases they were not using public chain because of the fluctuation of the value, as well as also echo on the public application concept that Yifan has mentioned. They are all trying to become the application of that nature, and eventually want to develop into the public application to go to for everybody else who would like to make use of the functions instead of developing the application themselves. So I think these aspects attract the startups to use Spartan.
Thanks. Roland, I'm just going to come to you just as an extension of this question, right? So when you're looking at startups who may be, who may deploy BSN and Spartan network, what would be the things you would look for from an investor perspective for these guys to be implementing, right? Or use cases that you find attractive from an investor perspective in the near to medium term, yeah.
I'll take that. I mean, I will not, my disclaimer, I'm not representing all the investor thinking, but this is quite specific to us.
Yeah, please.
Our job is to look at a 10-year view on any investment that we make. And so in terms of just seeing how previous technologies, Web 2.0, and all the interactions that people had with the web and with each other, and all the various iterations that came out of that, the point there I'm trying to share is we understand that it does take a lot of time, and what we see today in terms of application layers and how things work, interoperability, all the various issues, we are making the assumption that they will be solved. So in terms of saying that, whichever company, startup, or project is pitching what we relatively think are short to medium term solutions to technical problems are probably not things that we will look for. In fact, the reason is because we actually believe in the full potential of Web3, of blockchains, technologies, and therefore all the potential use cases they bring. So in that context, we're looking for founders that can reimagine a future in 7 to 10 years' time when we need to realize our investments, to think, how does all this new technology bring about new experience? I'll give one example in something that actually we've been incubating and working on, which is this idea of work, this idea of productivity. We're about to enter, generally speaking, a global recessionary period. Production, productivity, human incentives, all these very real things are facing headwinds. It's going to become challenging, even to the point where individuals are asking themselves, individuals being generally the younger folks, are asking themselves, well, why do I need to work? Why do I care? So what that suggests to us already is there is a incentive misalignment. There's an opportunity misalignment with this generation, which makes them feel that they don't need to commit the time into this. And so very naturally, actually, it's no surprise that this very same generation are the core heavy users of a lot of the new crypto projects and trading the crypto, because that in terms of time money paradigm makes the most sense. So we understand how quickly and how powerful the crypto and blockchain technologies can be. The fact that BSN Spartan is making it even more accessible, even more easy for the mass market, for the layman, will actually suggest that the future of these type of users will be looking beyond the speculative stuff. When it comes to work, for example, we think a lot about tokenizing work. Just like how you have a loyalty program where you reward a customer for spending time and money, with a certain brand, we ask the question is, are enterprises giving loyalty programs some type of tokenization to recognize that time and effort that their employees, that their workers are putting in? So this whole thing about Web3 and blockchain being the grand equalizer, being something that recognizes the individual, that empowerment that I was talking about earlier, that will lead to this new future, work being that one example of where we're rethinking the incentive reward idea. So we're looking for those kind of non-existent but highly possible ideas, and not really short to medium term fixes, which already there's enough brain power, I'm sure, in this conference to address those.
Thanks. Yifan, I'm just going to come to you as an extension of this concept of how broad-based how impact something like this can have, right? So it'll be great to hear from you, your views on how the Spartan network and BSN broadly can be attractive to policymakers, for bodies that are looking to do social good, multilateral bodies, not just as an individual country, but organizations like UN or others, how useful this is and why they could find this attractive.
I think first we need a lot of users first. Then we can attract the policymakers to really take this serious. Because right now what we're trying to build is basically still in the category of cloud services, okay? But it's a decentralized way. I think the technology is simple to describe, but the dynamic of the applications will be very, very, very new. Because basically you can build some applications in a public IT environment, nobody can shut down. Okay, that's actually a whole concept, because why I put my data in the public IT system in a data vault, because your data vault can never be deleted by anyone. You say, okay, I can rent a space on AWS and build my data vault. What's the problem? The problem is AWS can delay your thing because it's controlled by one single company. If there's a war, happening somewhere, they just delay the whole thing. But in a public IT system, you build an application, nobody can delay, nobody can stop. Then it becomes a problem to many policy makers and the governments. So when more and more people building such application and more business rely on such applications, then it becomes really a problem, need to be addressed or regulated by the policymakers and the governments. Yeah.
Thank you. And just as it's a good segue into our next question, which is, when we talk about blockchain technology, it's still a maturing technology, right? And quite often, people who don't understand the technology may have security concerns when it comes to networks, right? So Neil, how is the Spartan network and non-crypto public chains security, and how is that managed?
Sure, no problem. So in terms of China, open permission Ethereum, it's on proof of authority. That's the consensus mechanism. Obviously, public chain Ethereum, it's currently at proof of work, going into the merge, proof of stake. Critical advantages, disadvantages, I think inside of that is obviously speed, time, and also cost. So inside of minting different NFTs inside of China, it's roughly 1 RMB. But as far as the speed and the time to convert, because it's on a proof of authority consensus mechanism, it's a lot faster and it's a lot more secure. Ultimately, what it is it's on a whitelist, and the speed is just significantly faster, and it's a lot cheaper. Inside of Spartan Ethereum, essentially it's the same consensus mechanism. The key here is anywhere between 20 to 40 validators, as Yifan mentioned earlier. And it's substantially the same mechanism that you have inside of China, but it's different parties. I think inside of China primarily is government driven. Outside of China is primarily different private sector and also public sector validators inside of there. So it's very, very secure.
Harriet, would you also like to comment a little bit on the security of non-crypto public chains versus the ones that are crypto public chains? How do they compare?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Let us get back to the basis. Like for the security of the blockchain, it can be achieved by many different ways. And Neil has just explained the importance of the consensus algorithm and the different type of consensus algorithm and the different blockchains. Of course, the secure consensus algorithm, which is definitely a must. And I also want to explain a little bit from the perspective from the public chains and the consortium blockchains. For the public chains, the degree of decentralization supports the security. And also even the staking cryptocurrencies, they also support the safe operation of the network. And for consortium blockchains, the permission control of the bookkeeping nodes and the professionally run data center operators, they are also providing the security of the network. So one thing I really like the design of Spartan is it really combines the good practices from both worlds. So also without cryptocurrency, Spartan network adopts the well-tested consensus algorithms. And the distributed ledger is open for everyone to access without permission. However, the bookkeeping node is operated by professionally enterprise-grade data center operators. As I explained earlier, now it is just the start of the Spartan network. The open design governance welcomes more bookkeeping validation node operators to join the network. So I really believe it is going to become more and more decentralized with every day goes by. So I really want to use this opportunity also invite the global developers to join us in building this open network. Thank you.
Thank you. Yifan, anything you'd like to add on that security element of?
Yeah, I mentioned in the morning the non-crypto public chains. First, they are open source. So basically, you can compare the source codes with the original one and make sure nothing different in the security. So which means non-cryptocurrency public chains, when you use them, they are as secure as the original public chains. Personally, I don't think like I said, who will use the non-crypto public chain is the traditional IT system. So what's on the chain is their business data. So stealing those data from smart contract is just like stealing them from cryptocurrency wallets. So I always said, if we want to steal that, go steal cryptocurrency. It's much easier and quicker and make more money. So personally, I think don't worry about the chain itself. But the decentralization is, it's people say, okay, you only have like 20 to 40 validator nodes. Trust me, it's already more than many public chains. Okay, it's more than them. Some public chain only have like 10 validator nodes or 11 or a dozen. So, but remember, in the white paper, we also gave the roadmap how to make a Spartan network more and more decentralized. Is we will give voting powers to regular data centers when they spend a certain amount of money on the network. The rationale behind that is we like people who care about the network to vote, to make a decision together with validator, owners. So that's how we, slowly evolve the whole thing into more and more decentralized.
Thanks, and I'm going to come back to you on the next question, but I'll start with Jay on this. Jay, when it comes to data centers, right? So how do they operate in such a network or for such networks when it comes to non-crypto and BSN and Spartan?
Yeah, so when it comes to Spartan, if you look at, if you compare it to a public chain, the way you can participate into a public chain is either you run a node or you actually use someone services who they have running a node. So basically, when it comes to VDC or Spartan network, it's a very similar concept. So either you run a VDC yourself, or you find someone who's running a VDC and they provide a service. So basically, my company, digiXnode, we actually, the kind of company, we run a VDC as well as we provide a service for the people who do not want to run a node. So we also, of course, like just our company, we don't have the cloud resource. So we are in talks with major cloud resource company around Hong Kong to provide this VDC as a service or a so-called RPC API into the Spartan network. Yeah.
Thanks, Yifan. Your thoughts on data centers on Spartan and BSN network?
Yeah.
The functioning and the...
Yeah, basically, a Spartan network is made up of all the data centers linked together. So which means each data center is an independent business. So for example, I just talked to some friends who from UK, they want to set up a data center in UK. So then when people access Spartan networks through their data center, then they need to build a very simple interface, right? And by law, they can ask the user to basically pay the gas fee with fair money to them, not to Spartan, because they own the NTT wallet. Then they receive the money, then use NTT pay for the gas credit for the end user. So the end user have no idea about the Spartan network actually, who runs that. They just deal with the data center operators. Then the data center operator makes money, and they can even charge more by providing more stable environments or more services. Then it's basically, consider this as AWS. But there's many portals and many entry points of AWS. Then each entry point can run their own business in their own language, charge people in their own digital currencies. The end user doesn't even know there's a backbone called AWS. So that's basically the idea.
Thank you. So as we come towards the end of the panel, I would like each of you to give our audience two things you feel or are most excited about the BSN Spartan network, but also about non-crypto public chains. So we'll start with you, Harriet.
And we are and so they to share like one thing what I like the Spartan network is its openness, and another is so we are currently really build up internal blockchain. So that is really exciting.
Thank you. I think we also kind of have a transmission issue with Harriet, but thank you so much, Harriet. Roland, your thoughts?
I did hear the word openness, and I think me learning more about BSN Spartan Network, that openness approach, making it much easier for mass adoption, is obviously exciting towards that momentum I was talking about. We are already in the space. We need more users. We need more use cases. So we're very, very bullish about the space generally, and certainly with the BSN Spartan Network, hopefully all the various bottlenecks, issues, security, whatnot that we typically talk about, it certainly sounds like this network is out there to solve it. We are very excited about the momentum and increased adoption.
Thank you. Jay?
I would say enterprise and commercial adoption, as well as education.
Thank you. Neil?
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much summarized all the key attributes. I think critical inside of this is accessibility. Making Web3 accessible on the B2B side, whether it's NFT, gaming, metaverse, other applications on the consumer side. Also on the B2B enterprise side, I mean, we see it inside of the different use cases like MediConsent, the medical records with William. We have Kevin over there, from HEFA. We've got Gus over here from Parameta. We've got a lot of different use cases, and I think it's been amazing that within this short time that the Red Day team, DXN, ourselves, all together, working together to try to deliver, and so many different companies in the top 100 inside of Hong Kong are interested in this technology and how to adopt it inside of their own enterprises. So it's been fantastic, and I think it'll continue to grow from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. And Yifan, final word with you.
Thank you. I think two things is I really excited about. It's so many companies working together to build a BSN Spartan network. There's I think more than 20 in past 3 months. So that's a lot. And by working on a very unproven technology and project, that's a lot of courage. Okay, the second one is really those user cases, early user cases, because it's also take most of them is traditional, very conservative IT companies or traditional companies. They want to take the chance and at least test the technology a little bit and build the user cases, early user cases that really mean something to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a lot of exciting things to look forward to with the Spartan Network and with BSN. So I want to ask you all to give a big round of applause to our panel today. Thank you so much for your wonderful insights, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. And thank you.
Thank you, Musher.
Thank you.